If you live in Hebron and you need to sell your house, but also buy another one, making the wrong move first can cost you tens of thousands of dollars or leave you in layers of stress. So the biggest question you're going to have to answer is, should you buy first or sell first? My name is Jason Boyce. I'm a local realtor. I live in Hebron and I specialize in Hebron and the surrounding towns. Most of my clients are not first-time home buyers. They're either moving up or downsizing or relocating within town. And in this current market, the hardest part is not selling. It's coordinating both sides and figuring out what is the best thing for you to do in your specific situation. And that is what we're going to dig into today. Now, step one in making the right decision for you is understanding the market you're operating in. So let's take a look at Hebron. Hebron is currently in very low inventory. If you look at this 5-year chart, you'll see starting right around the time of COVID, the number of homes listed for sale dropped off a cliff. And it has been bouncing around the bottom ever since. Now it is starting to pick up slightly, but it has gotten nowhere close to where it was before COVID, where we were in a more normalized housing market. So there is extremely low inventory in this seller's market. And at any given time in the last few months, there's been anywhere from like 10 to 15 houses listed for sale in Hebron at any given time. Now, you'll also see here over the last 5 years, prices have also been trending higher in Hebron. Currently, median sale price is at $475,000. And as you can see here, immediately after COVID, the housing market, days on market, plummeted. You see here in this 5-year chart. And then currently in this 3-year chart, median days on market is at 6 here in Hebron. So the market is driven by low inventory, also by acreage. People like the privacy and the rural nature of this town. And many of the properties have well and septic systems. And typically people live here for longer periods of time. So there are longer decision cycles than maybe many of the more suburban markets, which means fewer replacement property options. So my key point here is that in Hebron, you cannot assume that you'll find a replacement home in 1 or 2 weeks. And that alone has to play an important role in your strategy. So what are your options? Well, option one, you can sell first. Now, the pros of this strategy are you will know exactly what you're going to net from the sale of your house. You will also have no double mortgage risk. You won't be carrying 2 monthly payments. It'll also give you strong negotiation power as a buyer because you will not be making an offer contingent on the sale of another property. And you will have cleaner financing, making your offer more appealing, easier to get it accepted. The cons of selling first are you may need temporary housing. If you list your home subject to seller finding suitable replacement housing, you may limit the buyer pool or you may feel rushed. And there might be a lot of stress and pressure if you're rushed to buy when inventory is tight. If you're thinking about selling first and not listing your house as subject to seller finding suitable replacement housing because it limits your buyer pool, you must also know that in Hebron, rental inventory is extremely limited. Short-term rentals are extremely limited, and that leaves you with the option of staying with family or friends. So whenever I have a client looking to sell first, one of the first things that we're going to cover with a housing plan is where are they going to stay after the sale. And now there are nuances within the decision of buying first and selling first. So it really comes down to you have 6 final choices on how to get this done. Number 1, you can buy first with a pre-approval and then sell. Number 2, you can buy first using a bridge loan or cash equivalent program. Number 3, you can buy first with a Hubbard contingency. Or number 4, you can sell first, subject to seller finding suitable replacement housing. Or number 5, you can sell first with a lease back. Or number 6, you can sell first and then use temporary housing. So we're going to dive into each one of those options a little more closely. Okay, now, buying first with the pre-approval and then selling. This is my favorite strategy, and it is often the best strategy if you can afford to do it. It's going to come down to your finances, your debt to income ratio. If you can qualify to get a loan while you have your existing house, buy the new house, move into the new house, and then sell your old one. It means you're moving once. You don't have to rush to buy. You can take your time to find the best house that meets your needs and your family's needs. And then it allows us to prep your house perfectly and sell it to maximize value. So you get the best of both worlds in this strategy. Now, the downside is not everyone can qualify, right? So if your debt to income ratio is tight, or if all the equity you need for the down payment is tied up in your existing house, then this strategy might not be for you, and that's okay. But if you can utilize this strategy, this is typically the best one. And insider tip, this is worth its weight in gold. One of the things that we do, if you have enough money to get pre-qualified, maybe 5-10% down, whatever, we use that. And then you can do a one-time recast where you take the money from the sale of your existing house, put it in, and now you calculate a new payment on the new house that you bought. We can cover that in more detail if that's confusing. But that way you don't have to refinance, you don't accrue all these extra fees, and it is the best strategy, again, if you can afford to do so and qualify. Right? So just to quickly recap, buying first with a pre-approval and then selling, it allows you to write clean offers. There's no home sale contingency, you're not moving twice, and there's no pressure while you're shopping, so you can go out and find the best house for you. It really is a great strategy, but in this business, not everything fits everyone's life. So if that doesn't work for you, let's cover some additional strategies. Now, option number 2, when we're sticking with the buy first strategy, you can buy first using a bridge loan or a cash to keys equivalent. There are some lenders who have come out with these programs. They're great in theory. It allows you, when you don't qualify traditionally because of debt to income ratios or because a lot of your equity is tied up in your existing house and you don't have enough for either a 5 or 10% down payment, lenders will sometimes offer a bridge loan where they kind of loan tapping into the equity in advance so you can buy, and then when you sell, that gets transferred to a regular loan. The downside of these, so sound great in theory, the downside is the fees are extremely high. When you do all the loan switches and the bridge loan fees, you're oftentimes looking in the neighborhood of an extra $10,000 to $25,000 out of your pocket just in loan fees. So if we can avoid that, there are much better strategies where we'll often avoid that. And hey, if I can save you $10,000 to $25,000, trust me, I would much rather do so. Now, your third option, if looking to buy first, is buying with a Hubbard contingency. That means you're buying your new house subject to the sale of your old house. Now, this used to be the standard way a lot of people operated pre-COVID and before housing inventory and multiple offers became a normal thing. It was very normal to make an offer contingent on the sale of your old house. That being said, in this current environment, we covered the market. Houses are selling very quickly, often with multiple offers, often over asking price. And if people have multiple offers and they have similar offers that aren't subject to a sale of a house, when they don't know how much that person will get, what type of timing it will be, there are just so many variables. When competing with multiple offers, the sellers often aren't really accepting Hubbard contingencies. So that puts us in a difficult situation in the current market where if it's the only thing you can do, hey, I have had that be successful with certain clients, but know that you're going to put in a lot of offers and probably not get very many of them accepted just because you're competing against other people that don't have a Hubbard contingency. Now, we're going to switch over and look at the options you have when selling first. Now, you can sell subject to seller finding suitable replacement housing. And what that does is it means you list your house, you get an accepted contract, so now you know what your house is going to sell for, but you closing on that sale is contingent on you finding suitable replacement housing. And in theory, it sounds wonderful, and it is a very good strategy if you're choosing to sell first. We have helped dozens of people do this. The downside to this strategy is you typically only have 30 to 60 days to find your replacement housing. Without getting too much into the weeds, it has a lot to do with what the incoming buyer can do with a rate lock. There are time limits on rate locks for their existing loan with their existing lender. So it means once you go under contract, you have to boogie and try to find replacement housing as soon as possible, because that buyer of your house, they can get weary. They can think it's not going to happen. Their loan fees can go up if they have to pay for rate locks. So you typically, if you list your house first, get a contract subject to seller finding suitable replacement housing, know that within 30 days, 60 days max, you need to have found replacement housing, which can be stressful and can put you in a situation where maybe you feel like you're not getting the best house for you, but you're strapped for time. So you're settling for something that's maybe not perfect, but it was the best available at the time. So know that that is one of the trade-offs of that strategy. The other one is you could be limiting your buyer pool. If some people don't want to wait too long or for an extended period of time, they may just move on to the next house. Now, another option when selling first is you can sell and request a lease back. This gives you more time, right? If you list subject to seller finding suitable replacement housing, it only gives you that 30 to 60 days time frame to find replacement housing. When you list asking for a lease back, you can name a period of time up to, typically we see anywhere from 3 to 6 months for a lease back. So it gives you additional time. Know that it also further limits your buyer pool, because an incoming buyer has to know, hey, I could be waiting up to 3, 4, 5, or 6 months, depending on what you agree upon, for that person to find replacement housing. So it's great for the seller. They don't have to rush or settle, and it gives them more time to find replacement housing, but it also narrows your buyer pool to someone willing to wait that long. And lastly, on the sell first side, you can sell first and then get temporary housing. Now, if you choose to sell first, this is typically the best strategy for an outcome, because the sale is done, you know what you're going to get. You typically don't have to rush because there aren't these other deadlines. The downside is you either have to rent for a period of time, you have to find a short-term rental, or you have to stay with family and friends. So it allows you to sell your house, close, get the funds. That's great. But the temporary housing piece can become an issue, especially in Hebron, where we have a limited rental inventory, limited short-term rental inventory. And there's not a lot of people like to move in temporarily with family and friends. Although I have had a number of clients do it, they always say it's not the funnest few months that they had because they're jam-packed and they're living out of boxes, and they're often paying for a storage unit, and right, there's additional costs that go along with that. But it is a strategy that a lot of people use, and it has been successful. Know that there are just trade-offs for it. And if that is the choice you're going to make, let's plan ahead and get that temporary housing all lined up before we list your house. So let's talk a little bit about clarity. How do you make the decision? Well, for the people we work with, it really comes down to a couple different things. Number one, what's your financial position? Can you afford to get qualified for a loan and buy first and then sell? Typically, this creates the best outcome financially because you don't have to rush. You can get the right house that you need or want to move into, and then we can prep your house for maximum sale price. Now, like we talked about, some people, they just don't qualify for that or have the funds saved or all their money's tied up into the existing property. So if that's a situation, then we have to look at alternatives. Now, if we choose to sell first, the benefit you get is clarity, right? You know exactly to the penny how much you're walking away with and then how much you have for the next property. But there are often some parameters that you're working with, either temporary housing or timeframes on a rent back or a subject to seller finding suitable replacement housing. So the other factor you have to also think about is your risk tolerance, right? So what's your financial situation? Can you qualify option one? And then if not, what is your risk tolerance for either listing first subject to seller finding suitable replacement housing, being strapped for time, or limiting your buyer pool to potentially give yourself more time, right? So it's a balance of risk. Now, I often get asked, what is the biggest mistake sellers make when buying and selling at the same time? And it's that they assume, hey, we'll just figure it out. Unfortunately, what they need is a plan. They need clarity. They need to work with an agent to come up with a net sheet to know how much they're going to net in their pocket at the end of the sale of their existing house. They need timeline mapping to figure out timelines for buying and selling and prepping the house for sale. And they need to figure out their financing and have a conversation around what type of financing they're going to line up with. Now, the clients I work with that do sit down and come up with a very clear strategy, they make out the best in the end, meaning they end up buying a house that they love, that works for them and their family, and they end up selling their house for the most amount of money. Now, before we end, I just want to cover a few tips that might help you decide whether you should sell first or buy first. So people who should consider selling first, they're generally going to be very conservative and low risk in nature. They're generally going to have tighter debt to income ratios and struggle to qualify for a loan up front while still carrying their existing house. Or they own an extremely unique property that we think might have trouble selling and will not sell quickly, which means they could end up carrying multiple properties for prolonged periods of time. And now let's quickly cover who typically might prefer buying first. And it's going to be someone with high liquidity and strong income so they can qualify to purchase first and then worry about selling their house after. Or someone that has specific replacement needs and wants to make sure they don't settle when they come to buying their next or their forever home, especially when they're competing in the current low inventory environment. Now, if you're trying to buy and sell at the same time here in Hebron, I coordinate that all the time and know that the coordination, it is the hardest part there is because there is just so much to cover. So if you have any questions or I can help, all my contact info is below. We can help you get a value analysis. We can help you talk about the different timing strategies. And we can help you figure out what works best for you so that you have the confidence and clarity moving forward. Also, please, if you found this helpful, smash that like button. Provide any comments you have below. I always respond to the comments. Follow the channel for local real estate tips. And lastly, if you want any more info about selling your house in Hebron, there will be a link below. I have a Hebron-specific landing page on my website. There will also be links to all the other Hebron-specific videos that we've covered on the channel. So, thanks.